What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We have made it home from our full Florida road trip with two Volkswagens on my single car 24-foot trailer. If you haven't seen the last few episodes, go back and watch them. The trip was insane. We originally were headed to Fort Myers, Florida from here in Chattanooga, Tennessee with the 64 giveaway Beetle for Eurotripper 11 for the car show. And then from there, we headed across the Everglades to Miami to pick up the Type 3 Fastback from my friend Pep in Hialeah. We got in last night, safe and sound. We were chasing massive oil and fuel leaks in this truck that all happened within a week before we left for the trip, and there isn't a drop of oil under this truck. Not a single drop. And I can't even believe it. Straps and ratchets all tidied up, put away. Since I don't have anyone else here at the moment, I'll use the winch to ease the car off the trailer. All right, we're unloaded. The Type 3 is officially at the shop, and I officially own my first Fastback. This is so cool. Man, huge shout out to my friend Pep for giving me the call on this thing. I'm super eager to see if we can get this thing running off of a separate can of fuel, since Lord knows what's going on with that fuel system. We're gonna pressure wash the trailer, get that all cleaned before we put it away and tucked away, and we'll pressure wash the truck too, since that thing saw some rain a few different times on the trip through Florida, so we're gonna get that cleaned. All right, so I went through the stash of steering wheels, and unfortunately, nothing works. We have a 1960 BMW 700 steering wheel. Splines are too small. We have a 1960 Auto Union 1000 SP steering wheel. Splines are larger and also too small as far as the overall diameter. And I have a 1960 Mercedes W111 220 SB steering wheel, which also from the backside has too fine of a spline and too small diameter. So it's just odd that these are all 1960 German, all different manufacturers. Don't have anything this old for Volkswagen. All my Volkswagen steering wheels are early Mark 1 water-cooled. We're going to be turning around in the yard without a steering wheel for now. But I got plenty of local air-cooled Volkswagen friends. I'm sure someone's got a steering wheel somewhere. Actually, I may have actually just gotten word. Yes, my friend Sam Bunker has one. Oddly enough, I'm filming that clip when Sam tells me he's got a steering wheel. In pretty decent shape. It might be too good for this car. We're going to get it on the lift. We'll roll it inside now. Everything's unloaded. Pressure wash the trailer. Pressure wash the truck. Everything's clean. Everything's put away. The weather is super nice. So I'm going to wheel the Fastback in now. Get a good look at what's underneath this thing and how bad it really is. Or how good it really is. Because it looks pretty bad. I feel like this is the opposite of a New Hampshire Northeast car, where being a coastal car, like what you see on the outside is the worst, and underneath and structurally may turn out to be quite better than expected. Right there. No. We can come back and straighten it out too.
through the lift, so we're good.
Looks good to me. It's hilarious. They put the rear tow hook on the bumper, which no longer has an existing mount. All right, so it should be no surprise that we're dealing with things like that. Taking a look underneath this thing. So Type 3, totally different motor orientation than a Type 1. And you guys saw the same layout in the motor I bought for the 1000 SP project. And that's basically what a Type 3 motor looks like outside the car. Also with a carburetor setup, which this one has had done to it. This would have been a fuel-y car from the factory with fuel injection. And somebody has actually carbureted it, which is great because that's something that we were going to do anyway to just get rid of that early CIS or early whatever Volkswagen was doing in 72 for fuel injection. So it's already got a carburetor. And you'll see right away the motor mount systems in these Type 3s. Unlike the Type 1s, the Beetles, you just rely on the transmission mounts up underneath the transmission and the whole motor kind of floats. But in these Type 3s, you got two motor mounts out here on the sides. Well, you guys already probably saw in the previous episode how crusty the sills are. Crusty. Some parts aren't crusty at all, but we got some floor spots that are gone. We've got, like up here in the corners, basically when the window seals failed and water got in this thing. Wow, that's a big section that's been done. I didn't even notice that. When window seals went bad and water would get in, wherever the most moisture would accumulate in the carpets, lowest points would just be the first rot points. And that's what you're seeing here. More over here. The floor is totally given away here. The back, the lower part of the footwell for the rear seat.
The battery box is always the first thing to go.
Yep. And that's what you see been replaced here. Yeah. That whole section right there has been replaced. But tunnel is in great shape. That's the structure of the whole thing. That's solid. And you'll notice a subframe in the front here. The Type 3s had an actual front subframe, unlike the Type 1s, which were just basically from your Napoleon hat forward was a pan head that the whole beam just mounted to. And as you guys also saw in the previous episode, this thing is an automatic. How nuts. Yeah, the shifter cable definitely works because I had to yank on that thing to get it into neutral. Yeah, wild. And this is what Max at EvaResto is telling me. We have a long axle and we have a short axle.
Yep.
And I'd imagine that's an automatic only thing. Probably.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. She's crusty in many spots, but it looks like most of the bones are good. Like all the mount points for the rear like torsion tube subframe essentially is all solid. Up in here, shock towers are all solid. But then you see like the valence. Look at how solid and rust-free the valence is.
Yeah.
Like my Corvair didn't even have a valence that solid.
It's funny that the hood is gone, but the gasket's still there.
I know. I mean, that is just like shark mouth.
You up to date on your tetanus?
I'm not, surprisingly. I can't remember the last time I got a tetanus shot. And everything I'm surrounded by is capable of giving me tetanus.
Tetanus paradise. Never mind patina.
Yeah, seriously. This one might be a fun, quick project. Slam on the ground, put some wheels on it. All right, so since this side is non-existent, plate that it bolts to in the car is no longer a car. Yeah, who knows if that'll... Is it really loosening? Oh my goodness
The bolt
gracious.
coming out.
So since that's non-existent, I wanted to take the rear bumper off just so it doesn't end up flopping around and hanging around. So we already got the two bolts on the opposite side with just a ratchet. Like no heat, no cutting, no fluid either. And so we thought, well, since this is too thick to come through the rear bumper slot, we're like, well, maybe those bolts will come out. And sure enough, well, let's not jinx it yet. Oh.
Yeah.
It's turning on this side too. Wow. Keep it going. Wow, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
Toledo.
First mod. Wow, look at the valence.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so the Sharpie bits taken off of it. What's left of the bumpers. We'll probably end up running bumpers essentially on this car. Definitely the rear bumper since it looks pretty naked without them. Maybe the front bumper. I've seen some late model fastbacks low to the ground with these late model bumpers, and they can look cool. They can look all right. But now I think what we're going to do is we're going to work on possibly breathing some life into this thing. Now, normally, if this wasn't such a last second thing, I would have ordered a cap, rotor, wires, plugs, a handful of things to just ensure that we could start it. But since it's here, we might just go for it. Late model fastbacks for the hood pop. Right there in the door jamb. And it still works. Which is so cool. Out of everything that is like rotted and gone on this car, the hood pop still works. And here's what we're talking about. This is the obvious, it's been carbureted modification. Normally, this engine cover covers everything. And it was fuel injected. So this was just a flat cover. Well, someone's put a carburetor manifold with a carburetor on it and then just cut the hole and then realized the edges of the metal was probably too sharp. So they wrapped it in duct tape because that's just what you do. We'll put a fuel source outside the car, try to run it through the fuel pump. Yeah, it's got a belt on it. It's like complete. All right, guys, next day, working towards getting this thing started. Just got back from the parts store. Get some extra fuel line and a fuel filter so we can run off the pump or to the pump from just a can of fuel out here. So we're getting clean fuel to the pump. We'll put a filter to the carburetor. Checked the oil yesterday. This is the crazy dipstick system in these Type 3s. And it's got oil in it. It's got enough oil in it, surprisingly. There's a rubber piece right here that's actually rotted away on the back side. So if you were to fill it with oil, a lot of it would leak right out. So that's got to get replaced. But it's got oil in it. This little ignition setup was already kind of wired in. Pep and his dad just quickly wired stuff in to try to get it turned over. Yeah, this here was cut to gain access to the starter, unfortunately. But we can gain access to it either through the wheel well here or, yeah, possibly even from the backrest of the seat. I've got an extra battery here. We'll get some fuel lines hooked up, get a can of fuel in here. We might be starting this thing soon. Filter came out. These lines, this is literally a hard line now. That feels insane. These cut off like they were plastic. Listen to this. Volkswagen.
You'll have to clip that.
I mean, the dump sticker on the windshield is 1989, so probably hasn't run in 34 years, or whatever that math is.
Yeah, that's the year I was born, so 34.
Good, yep, 34. All right, so utilizing the wires that are already kind of here, we just did a quick test run on pump power. Now, as you can see, the line that comes off the coil also runs over to this low pressure fuel pump that was put in the car when they carburetor swapped it, because that will have lower pressure than the fuel injection system, so it doesn't overpower the carburetor. And so since that's feeding the same between the power for the points and the fuel pump, this jumper that's just tied into this line, we just put power to them and we heard the fuel pump run and also some noise actuation to the ignition as well.
All right, powering on.
No fuel pump.
Huh.
So also, my father's in town, which you guys haven't seen on the channel in quite a while. He just bought another third-gen Dodge in Alabama. And you guys might remember way back, I don't know, 2 years ago, we helped him buy another third-gen Dodge in Knoxville with a 24-valve Cummins in it. This one's a Hemi. So he's stopped here for a few days on his way back from Alabama, on his way back to New Hampshire. It just so happens we're working on old rusty junk, which he's totally used to working with me on. All right, so when we first put power to the pump that's in the car, it ran and it was obvious. Now nothing. So we checked power, we checked ground. We've got good ground and we have key power to the pump. And so it must have just seized up. It's old as dirt, it seems like. So we're taking that out, and I just so happen to have a 4 to 7 PSI Edelbrock inline fuel pump. This was supposed to go in the Corvair, and I never got to it. So now that we've got this laying around, and we have good power and good ground to this old box, we're taking this out now, and going to wire in the Edelbrock and get ourselves some fuel, and then we'll know whether or not we're getting spark. This is the status of the fuel pump.
That's
yeah,
real good.
that fuel pump's junk. All right, so the Edelbrock fuel pump is in. New lines are all hooked up. We even got it mounted. Got a new ground set up. Had that fuel pump here, which is great. So get that all wired in. All right, yeah, see if she turns on. That's more like it. It's running. No fuel in the filter yet. Okay, so we've backed up a little bit. We verified that my brand new Edelbrock fuel pump that I have had for a little over a year, but has not been opened until today, was faulty. Went back to the local parts store and got another one. And we just bench tested it out here with the fuel can and an extra battery I had, and immediately put fuel in the cap. Like immediately primed it and was pulling fuel. Within the second we put power to it. So this little guy, definitely faulty. So I'm gonna unhook this guy, wire this one in, get this mounted. And while we do that, I've got my charger on the battery. So hopefully we'll have enough cranking power to get this thing turned over and get it started. All right, so we have the new pump back where the old pump was, wired in and plumbed in. And we got some charge on the battery. So who knows if the plugs are good. We do have spark to the coil, so we are getting spark. Yeah, next step, if this doesn't work, we'll pull plugs and take a look at what the plugs are doing, or the wires to the plugs as well. Yeah, let her rip. We'll see if the filter fills up as well. Yep, look at that. How about that? All right.
All right.
Yep. Oh.
Float stuff.
Thought that was it. Come on.
Yeah, she got some air. She's got some gas.
All right, so put new spark plugs in and semi-new plug wires. My local O'Reilly couldn't get plug wires in until tomorrow morning. The 1500 single port that used to be in the BMW 700, which now has a 1600 in it, had semi-new plug wires. So I put those on. They're a far cry better than what came out, including the coil wire. It's got brand new plugs in it, newish plug wires. It is galloping on the crank, but this thing hasn't run in a long, long time. So it might just be that it's not lubricated well in there and it's still pretty dry. We'll see. We'll crank it up again and see what happens.
Yeah, leave the chokes closed for now, I guess.
Oh, hold on. Coil wire isn't plugged back in yet.
Ready?
Yep. Oh! Wow! Yeah, buddy! Wow! It sounds good! It doesn't sound bad. Not bad. She's running. I didn't think we'd get it running this well. Like it doesn't sound bad. We started it without the safety switch. All right. If it was in reverse, we could have run it out the door. It's a runner. It really sounds pretty good. This is a win, for sure. Well, it runs.
Yep, that it does.
It's running real rich, but it runs. Man, yeah, it has not run in a while. We had it running way longer than I thought it would run.
Overall, it doesn't idle too bad.
No, the linkage, all that's real stiff and tight. Off camera, the float stuck and it started to fill up real good. And he tapped on the bowl and it went back down, and it needs a cleaning and a rebuild.
Yeah, it'll scare you what's inside that bowl probably.
I bet. I'm dying to know if that transmission works.
Well,
That's-
put her in gear.
I know. Yeah.
Fire it up.
Aside from sputtering on some starting fluid that Pep and his dad sprayed in there once, this thing hasn't been on the road since 1989. Amazing. So cool. Now I just gotta let the shop air out for the next day. Stings the nostrils. Wow, so cool. So glad to hear this thing run.
Yeah, no knocks. When it first started, the backside of that generator I thought was on fire.
Yeah, I saw sparks and like embers and
yes, there's sparks and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, it's running. We'll let her go. It's just burning up to dust.
I didn't see any flame though, so I figured I might as well let her ride.
I was just keeping an eye on it, so let her go. She's running.
It doesn't even leak oil. Do you notice that?
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking to see if anything was going to be dripping out of there.
This guy here came out of the fill neck,
yeah.
which is a hole in, and there's a little spot up in front between the trans and the motor. Well, guys, the Fastback runs. But for just day one, opening the hood and taking a look at this thing, getting it to run and idle on its own is a huge win. I don't really know where in the schedule this project's gonna fall, but as you guys could probably already guess, we are gonna be talking with Max, have been talking with Max at EvaResto about the formula for the Type 3 on the Fastback. Well, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I know the shop's quickly becoming an air-cooled shop. It was never the intent. They just keep finding me. We're gonna have some fun with this. That's all this car is about, just having some fun, repurposing this old, crusty Florida Fastback. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and for all of the support. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We've got so much weird and wild stuff going on this spring. Really can't wait to show you guys more of what we're up to. Can't wait to get into the fun stuff on the Auto Union as well. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you very shortly in the next episode.